women. I know a lot of women are under the misconception that they have saline implants, and that's only what the implant is filled with. All implants, all breast implants and butt implants all have a silicone exterior. So they're all leaching. None of them have been studied or regulated safe under extreme heat.
Hi, I'm Lennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe.
There's a big controversy going on right now. Have you heard about it? Now, I know there's so many controversies. It's hard to choose which one I might be talking about. But since I'm in wellness and I deal with women over 40, of course, to me, anything that's worth note when it comes to controversy is going to fall within that realm. What am I talking about? I'm talking about explants. And for those of you who don't know what an explant is, that is living tissue that's removed from an organism and placed in the medium for tissue culture. Well, now, what does that have to do with wellness and women? Well, let's take it a step further. Explant surgery, for instance, involves removing the breast implants. Yes, we're talking about the removal of breast implants. Now, some of you would say, well, why would I want to do that? You know, I like mine. Or perhaps you haven't heard some of the stories that are going to get shared with you today. I'm so happy today to have with me Lindsaya, who is a visionary founder of the Wellness Warrior Collective, a platform dedicated to inspiring individuals towards a journey of self-love, holistic wellness, and a sustainable success. I love her platform. I first met her on Clubhouse. She has so much to share because she has a great and vibrant background that transitions from multidisciplinary brand strategist to a beacon of empowerment. She has dedicated her life to merging the realms of personal well-being and professional excellence. Her approach, known as the Wellness Warrior Way, don't you love that? The Wellness Warrior Way emphasizes the transformative power of self-love as the cornerstone of a healthy and fulfilled life. And it seems like to me, her story that she's going to share with you of explant surgery is really the epitome of what can happen as you begin to make those pivots and make some transformations and put your self-love and self-care over some of the things you thought were going to be best for you. So, Lindsaya, thank you so much for being here today. It's wonderful to have you here on the V.I.B.E Living Podcast.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be on the V.I.B.E Living Podcast, and it is totally your vibe. I'm excited to be with your community, and thanks for asking me and having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You know, you have a powerful story that I think women need to hear. When you told me your story, because I think I knew bits and pieces of your story, but I wanted you to come on because I just like you and your energy and what you're doing for men and women with your Wellness Warrior Collective and all the different kinds of things you talk about on various audio platforms and your podcast platform as well. But then you also told me about your story and your history with being an explant advocate. So tell us a little bit about your story and how the whole idea of explant surgery came into your life.
Yeah. So I think my story starts like anyone who alters their body, which is, you know, I had a long history of disapproving of the way that I looked and thinking that I needed to be fixed or that something needed to be different. So the reality is that I started as I'm an only child, single mom. I battled my weight, eczema, acne, migraines, asthma, chronic chest and cold and infections. And I was far from the picture of health, and I didn't have a lot of confidence, and I was overweight and went on to have an eating disorder or two, really looking always to like fix my body, be better, be pretty. And I really came to understand that, you know, like the explant was the culmination of having put in breast implants and realizing that they were killing me. And I had no idea when I put them in my body that that was going to be the thing that I found. And there was a lot that I wasn't told. And so now I'm out here really advocating for self-love first and foremost, because I believe if we truly love and accept ourselves, we'll step away from the idea of changing ourselves. And if we've already made those decisions, if you're like me, it's okay. It is very important to have an understanding of these cancer-causing devices and injections and what they're doing to our bodies. And I didn't know. And so I want to ensure that other women and men that may be choosing these elective procedures are informed, and we really take back the divinity of our natural born body.
Well, let's get informed. Let's talk about that. First of all, you had breast implant surgery. What kind of implants were they?
Well, I had what was considered, and now know that in today, right now, real time, there's another new silicone that they're getting ready to okay from the FDA. So at the time that I had them put in about 12 years ago, they were the most new age silicone that's called gummy bear silicone. So the idea was that it can't ooze or seep anywhere. Even if it is to break, it's more like a gummy bear. And so that's what I chose to put in. I know a lot of women are under the misconception that they have saline implants, and that's only what the implant is filled with. All implants, all breast implants and butt implants, all have a silicone exterior. So they're all leaching. None of them have been studied or regulated safe under extreme heat. So think hot tub, hot shower, exercising, sunbathing, or the infamous new age thing that is all the rage, and something that I was doing too, which is sauna use. And I had no idea that the sauna use was actually going to exacerbate the leaching. And that's really where my story of knowing that explant was essential and necessary began.
For those of you who are looking at the podcast, the expressions on my face, horror, shaking my head, what? All these things, because first of all, and you educated me because I didn't know. Of course, I know that anything put foreign in the body, from tattoos to implants, all that stuff, at some point in time, you're going to feel the impact of it. It hasn't been going on as large of a time as this. For instance, tattoos been going for a long time, but since it's... Well, let's just stick with the women for right now. Since it has something to do with women, there hasn't been a whole lot of studies about how it impacts us. That's the first thing. Maybe they've done a study on tattoo on men. I do not know, but I do know that anything that is not natural, okay, is going to have some kind of impact. And let me just say this. I am not a fanatical purist. I know that because we live in the environment that we do, that there's just going to be some things that are just going to be toxic that we'll eat or breathe or sit on or wear. Okay, I know that. But we can at least be educated and minimize our exposures. And to me, that's a huge minimization. It's like, well, am I going to put something foreign in my body or not? No. So let's talk about when you began to realize that something was wrong. What were your symptoms?
Yeah, well, I actually, I was just on a podcast the other day, and I explained the reality is that instinctually I knew before I even went into surgery that this was far from the way. Like, I had an inkling that, there was nervousness about having a foreign body in my body, because I already believed much like you. Like, I removed chemicals from my food. I wore cleaner makeup. I stopped wearing deodorant. So I was already on the journey, and the body dysmorphia that I was diagnosed with at 13 still reigned supreme in a lot of the stories I told myself and other experiences that I thought this would be a solution to. And so I put my implants in. I came out and I had pain from day one, of course, post-surgery, and it never went away. And I lived in chronic pain, and I lost all the sensation in my left breast immediately. So it was never a time in which I was like, oh, this is amazing, which I know that becomes another emotional component for some women, because they look great and they feel great. And so that's amazing. I always had pain. However, I really did the sharp pains and all of those things. I was willing to live with them. As crazy as it sounds, I'm I gave birth twice. I can do anything. This is easy, right? And then I came to realize that that pain was maybe, more than physical pain, but maybe there was something underlying. Mm-hmm. And I started getting thermography because I didn't want mammograms. I wanted to forego radiation as much as possible with my family history. So I started getting thermography, and I also I hurt my back, and I was going to yoga, infrared yoga. So heated yoga, like I said a few moments ago. Right. And I watched my thermography. I watched how rapidly I started. So what were some of the things? night sweats, thyroid dysfunction, diagnoses spoken over me that disappeared from my blood work 3 months after explant. So things that my body was beginning in degradation from gut health, from fatigue, from, just like body odor when I was sweating, like all of these things, because I was leaching from my silicone implants. It's without question to me.
Wow. And I want to say something else. It's not really a disclaimer, but I want to be sensitive to one particular population that might choose something like this, and that is those who have had breast cancer and had their breast removed, and they want to have their breast rebuilt. Now, I don't know enough about it to speak about it intelligently, but no judgment there, no judgment on anyone. This is just giving you some information that you need. And for those of you who are considering reconstruction surgery, I'm sure you're having these kinds of discussions, or I hope you are, with your doctor in terms of what the options are for that. I don't know if there's any other kinds of options that they do for breast cancer survivors. But that aside, for those of us who are thinking that we want to enhance our bodies by doing this, I'm just looking at some of the complications that can come from the breast implant removal, because there are some complications. So you're saying that even after you had the removal, that you were suffering from some of these things that you mentioned earlier?
No, so removal is beginning to healing. I actually want to, because I'm very informed on this topic. So I want to circle back to those that have experienced breast cancer. My grandma experienced breast cancer 5 times, had a bilateral mastectomy, did end up perishing, but lived 30 plus years from her first exposure. My mom is a 2-time cancer thriver, also bilateral mastectomy. So in fact, my mom chose to forego reconstruction because of what was happening with me and the impact that implants were having on my body. So something I want to say to those, and listen, zero judgment. Like, I have a deformity that I'm walking with, and that is what someone would maybe look like if they had a lumpectomy, which is a very normal procedure when it comes to certain types of breast cancer. Mastectomy also based on, again, what kind of cancer you have, its invasiveness, all of those things. So yes, seek medical professional advice. Without a question, here are a few things they will never say to you. In fact, I've never met anyone that's gone through the procedure. Number one, implants are known and proven by science to be cancer causing. In fact, I experienced cancer 6 months post-explant, and I know that was part of my body ridding the toxicity. So I'm grateful that the cancer came dermally and was able to be cut off. And I wholeheartedly believe that would have festered into something much bigger if I kept those implants inside of me. Number 2 is, once you go in for reconstruction, you can never have or achieve a true flat closure. And that's the most aesthetically pleasing if you choose no reconstruction. And there's no doctor that tells a woman that the way to get that really smooth chest cavity and to have the most natural looking chest, if you are going to have a mastectomy, is only upon removal, that first surgery. Once they put an expander in or they do anything like that, you actually lose that capacity because they stretch the muscle. So some things that they don't tell you that are really important to know. And it is zero judgment. Like, I'm walking through a self-love journey because I'm not even 40 and I have deformed breasts. That's an outcome of having put breast implants in. So I see you, sisters. It's okay to have all the emotions. And the most important thing is they have a black box warning. They are absolutely cancer causing. It is so important when someone's going through a surgery because they're battling cancer that they know they're putting a cancer-causing device back into their body.
Wow. And I do have a dear friend that has beat, is it triple cancer?
Triple negative breast cancer, very aggressive. Lost one of my dear girlfriends to it as well.
She's beat it twice.
That's beautiful.
And she has gone through a reconstruction period, but I don't know exactly what that reconstruction has entailed. But getting back to those who aren't dealing with that, those who are just thinking of ways to look better, tell us a little bit about how it felt when you began to realize that this wasn't making you feel better, in terms of feel better about yourself. What was that journey like?
Yeah, well, again, I wasn't really satisfied with them from the beginning. Again, you're putting what your ideal is into the hands of somebody else. And so I had a different experience. Some of my friends come out loving them. for me, what I liked after having breastfed 2 babies, of course, it made me feel better that my nipples were a little more north. I didn't ever have, if you didn't know that I had implants, you could have seen me naked and never knew that I had implants. So I didn't have an implant effect. And so for me, I appreciated that because I have a lot of modesty. So I didn't want them to be detectable. Mm-hmm. And so, when I realized that there was a correlation to them and my illnesses and the degradation of my health, I was worried because I'd never been small chested. I told you I was an overweight child. I battled with my weight until my early 30s. And so for me, the reality was I had never been small chested, and that was scary. Like, that was very concerning to me, to be something I've never been before. It wasn't a returning to something I'd ever been. It was going to be a whole brand new me. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff that went through my brain. And, you've been in our daily self-love circle. And I started that because that was genuinely my practice that I did in the mirror to love myself, as a way of, like, I knew I was only giving these implants 10 years. Because that's when they tell you they tell you 8 to 10 years and you have to get a new pair because they degrade in the body. Silicone's known to begin leaching at 8 years. So you are intended to get an update every 8 to 10 years. That's the intention of the device. And I knew I would never go through that surgery twice. Like, having lost all sensation, I was like, once they're out, that's it. And there was still a lot of fear. And so I brought that daily self-love circle to a public space because I was also seeking deeper self-love for me. And it ended up being a community and a group of humans and this mission that is profound and holds me.
A wonderful community. I sometimes pop in when I can. It's really not too early for me. Sometimes I can't find it on Clubhouse, but mostly I get up so early. I start getting my dinner. It's like, oh my goodness. And I pop in this and it's like 6 o'clock and my time is 9 o'clock your time. But tell us about the Wellness Warrior Collective and what some of the goals are for the Wellness Warrior Collective.
Yeah. So it started as boot camps and fitness. It's been, the deepest calling is that I love wellness. I'm like you are a sister of mine that has great wisdom and walked a different path. And I didn't find myself surrounded by many women like you or men that wanted to have conversation around wellness, that wanted to meet and, do fitness and spiritual and holistic practices. And so the Wellness Warrior Collective really started with a group of women that we were really focused on living a more well life in so many capacities. And it's grown over the more than decade it's been around into a global community, a self-love movement, an addiction and recovery space. We have a collective book club, and these are only a few of our offerings. Like, the mission is to connect humans that are excited about amplifying the wellness warrior that lives within and wholeheartedly believe that they deserve to feel well.
It's a wonderful group. It's a wonderful energy, very loving energy. And that's because of Lindsaya. I mean, you set the tone, you set the energy, and you were consistently, I've never heard you not that way. Maybe I missed that room when you were, but I've never heard you not that way, even now. And I have to say, because you were talking about, you went through this thing of not feeling attractive, whatever, but I think you're beautiful. You are a natural beauty, and you should see how she is. For those of you who aren't looking at the video, she's got this beautiful trindles of hair coming down over her breast. Interestingly enough, has it always been that long? I mean, really, you look like a kind of a version of Rapunzel. You keep thinking,
yeah. My friends have always said my hair grows really long. I wore it short for some years, but yeah, I'm a mostly a long hair girl.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So now that you've gone through this journey and this metamorphosis, I have to first ask you, what did you do for yourself to begin to get well? What was your wellness regimen? Where did you start? What did you do?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that are really important for me. I thought going to the sauna was one of them, to be honest. I thought that my yoga practice was healing me. I didn't really recognize how much that was hurting me until after explant. So prior, I would have told you going into a sauna. I'm going to invite you, if you have any plastic or silicone device in your body, please stay away from the sauna.
Right.
Yeah. But celery juice and regular daily juicing. I also do coffee enemas as part of my holistic protocol. I work with a naturopath. So I worked with a naturopath leading up to prep for surgery. And then I've done a lot of parasite detoxes and whatnot since surgery. So I invite people, work with a practitioner that you trust and that you know, and that will, really assess you personally. And, I continue to learn. I do a lot of breath work. It's really a key foundational practice of mine for my recovery and everything.
Let's talk about that, because some might say breath work. What the hell does that have to do with getting implants removed or recovering from some kind of a chronic illness that's been caused by the implants? How's that going to help me? I understand it, but I don't want to take for granted that the people that are listening, because I'm getting new listeners literally every day, that they know all this wellness stuff. But this is one example, vibers, that I talk about when I say alternative methods. It's not as woo-woo as you might think. Many times our alternative methods are things that are very natural, that are either grown in your yard or sitting in your cabinet or whatever. So why is the breath work so important? And what is breath work?
Oh, well, breath work it's breathing. It's that simple. It's our first gift when we come earthside. It's our final gift going out. So it's foundation. It's the thing we can go the shortest distance of time without. So it's literally the foundation if you were to lay the groundwork for living. And breath work is any practice where you're doing it consciously. So we unconsciously breathe. We don't have to think about it when we're sleeping. We breathe automatically. When you're doing breath work, you're intentionally working on a breath pattern of your choice, whatever that may be. And I personally am someone who benefits greatly from all different forms of breath work. My most favored is breath work and movement. So where there is a synchronicity, where the inhales and exhales are done very intentionally based on the movement pattern. And, this is something that you'll often see in an asana and a yoga, or you may see in Pilates.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you'll see in Pilates. We did it a lot in weightlifting too. I was a weightlifting coach and competitor. Yeah. So very important for bracing. So there's a lot of ways that breath work can be applied. And I like to do it in a meditative way. So where it becomes the center point of my focus. So not something where I used to lift really heavy weights. So not something where I'm lifting really heavy weight and I have to think. Mine is where the only thing I'm thinking about is my breathing, and everything else gets to be automatic. So that's the breath work that I participate in.
As you're thinking about it, I was kind of recalling, I was a dancer for many years, and I didn't know about breath work back then. I didn't really learn about this stuff until I was in my 50s. So way back then, though, I was doing breath work, because we think about it. I was a professional dancer doing classical ballet and doing jazz dance, modern dance, all the different genres. I never once thought about my breath, but it's all in the breath, because otherwise, how do you do stuff like that? That's why it's so amazing to me, people who dance and sing, because it's all in the breath. But when you're a professional dancer, most dancers will tell you it's an out-of-body experience. You go on, and then all of a sudden you're off, and you don't remember a whole lot of what's going on, because the breathing and the mind and all that kind of just takes over. The subconscious takes over. The conscious thinking is gone. So I could see what you're talking about in terms of breath work, helping to reset people, helping to get you out of whatever pain you might be feeling, helping you to be in more concert with your body. Because one thing for sure, when I am dancing, I am really connected with my body more so than any other time. I'm not really conscious of each move. That's already been, repetition over and over and over again, especially if you're doing the same thing 3 times a day, 21 nights, same old thing. But the thing that's really amazing is when you come back into your body, so to speak, how much better you feel. I had injuries and things like that. All dancers do. But I never felt tired the next day. I never felt aches and pains. Good, the good pain. I felt the good pain. Dancers love to feel pain, and that means you're still growing, you're still good. But nothing that was debilitating because of the breath. I believe it was because of the breath. Looking back at it now, I didn't know back then. But breath is powerful. There's something else that you mentioned earlier that I think is very powerful as well as the breath work, and I guess you can do this in connection with breath work, and that is the mirror work. Talk about that, and why is that important?
Yeah. So our practice, the daily self-love circle in our daily self-love practice is centered on mirror work because that's where it began for me. So while going through some sound and chakra training, I used my tuning fork, and I would use my tuning fork to align my energy. And then I would stand naked in the mirror. I would do this all in the mirror, and I would speak. And it was at that time in my life called the Daily Trinity because we talked about it. I was in a group of women and we did it daily, only it was 3 pointed outwardly, like about everything in our lives, our babies, our husbands, our careers, our friends, all of those things. And so I took that and turned it inward to really center on me. And so I would stand in the mirror and I would hit my tuning fork and I would cleanse my body. And then I would look myself, iris to iris, pupil to pupil. And I would say, one reason I was proud of myself and one reason I was grateful for me and a desire, like I would speak my dreams and manifestations as though they're already true. And if you're ever a friend that comes into my bedroom, and most of you won't be, so I'll tell you this, right next to my mirror is my vision board that I teach, and my living vision board that I do yearly. And so it's, that's in my periphery, and I'm staring myself eyeball to eyeball, and I have affirmations written on there that I speak to. And so it was that practice that I invited us to circle up, because when you're only on an audio app, the beautiful thing is you can be butt naked in the mirror and nobody sees you. So now you're speaking these things, and the reason why, saying them out loud, well, many of them I've never heard. Nobody's spoken about me or over me. Sometimes I'm saying things that are counter, counteractive to what maybe someone has claimed over me. And so when we talk about changing our neural pathways, creating new ways of thinking, it's important, but based on what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're writing, and that will all cultivate what we're thinking. So doing this mirror work, speaking about ourselves in a way maybe we've only heard for the very first time today, is a really important thing, because we have a voice to say it intentionally, and we have ears that will hear it from ourselves and be in a place of receiving.
I love that. Just think about the regimen, and this is probably all the reasons why you are where you are right now. The juicing, the breath work, the mirror work, entering into self-love, forming a community, a tribe that kind of resonates with you because they're working on some of the same things. This is the epitome of doing a mind, body, spirit connection type of wellness regime. And I know it's made a difference in your life. If you were to look back over the years and what you've been doing, what's the single one most important thing that you've learned that you want to share with others to make sure that they have that experience of learning it too?
Ooh, well, I would have said breath work, but we covered that. So I'm leaving that in the early part, and I'm going to circle up with number 2, which is eat more plants. You just covered on it. I would say also, evaluate the tie to that is listen to how you speak about you. And I'm going to go back to eat more plants, flood your body with plants, high vibrational food that's, grown in an organic or regeneratively organic way. The more biodiversity in the soil, the more nutrition for us. And to keep it and really make it simple, put more plants on your plate. They are going to allow you to amplify and elevate. And I had no idea. Yes. And the more that I crowded out, the more things began to change. And I believe every human body will do itself great service by eating more plants every day.
I always talk about eating the rainbow. And if you can eat it raw, do it. And I want to say something about organic eating, because I know people say, well, it's so expensive. I get it. And like I said, I'm not a purist. So sometimes it's like that bell pepper is $2.99 and that one's $99. Okay. And I got $3. So so I get that. But let me tell you, I go to the farmer's market. My husband and I, that's kind of a ritual that we do. We do it every Saturday, and sometimes in between we have to go somewhere and we see a farmer's market. We just get out. We just like getting out in the air and seeing the fruits and vegetables. And it's also a sign of a semi-retired life, because we work from home and we can do it whenever we want. But I got some, how you can get at the store, the spring mixes, right? And they say it's organic and everything. I always get those. Well, I went to a market and this guy had organic spring mix. It was in a bag. So I said, okay, I'll get it. Well, it got pushed back a little bit in my refrigerator. And a week and a half later, almost 2 weeks, it was exactly the same. It was still fresh looking. It tasted the same the first time I tried it. I can't do that with the ones that I get from the store. And I'm not poo-pooing the store organics. I'm not saying that some is better than none. But if you can go to your farmer's market and get organic food, it's really about sourcing. And yeah, it's a little bit more, but you know what? I would have gone back to the store and bought another one by then. So actually, I saved money getting this organic spring mix from the farmer's market. You know, food to fork whenever you can. I know it seems like a dig in the pocket, but when you take a look at the big picture, is it really? Because you're going to either pay for it on the front end or the back end, but you're definitely going to pay. I'd rather pay on the front end because I get to enjoy the benefits of eating healthy and feeling good. The back end, I'm dead. I don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, you either pay the farmer or you pay the pharmacy, right? It's one or the other. So I'll choose the farmer all day. And I love that you share that because it's also there's an energy and there's also a bionutrient. So soils of different territory. This is why certain plants only grow in certain regions. It isn't always only attributed to the amount of sunshine. It also has to do with what that earth is like. And we often forget this. Soil is, it's like the microbiome of our great Pachamama. So it's important. It's very, it's very, very important. And so when we think about that, when you're eating stuff that's local, it's going to have been like in that area, which is like energetically. Also, if there are any elements that are less than beneficial, this is where plants and the human body like seek to find a homeostasis. So they balance out beautifully. So yeah, when we eat close to home, there's a really positive energy to that.
Absolutely. I was thinking, from farm, was it from the farm to the funeral director? Okay, but we can farm.
That one too.
Not by the pharmacy.
The pharmacy is the first step.
The pharmacy will definitely take you to the funeral director, but hey, I'd rather do the farm, Yeah. There's no coincidence they all have that F sound. But anyway, yes. I'm so glad that you really brought that home because it's so important. And this may sound kind of crazy, but from an organic perspective, we're talking about sourcing. I like to buy from happy farmers. If their family is there and they're, talking and having a great time and all that, I like to buy from happy people. Joyful people, because happiness is fleeting. There's a joy that comes with organic farming. I think that all the farmers I talk to, for the most part, are happy in what they're doing. Support your local farmers, support your local farmers market. And most cities these days have it now. You will be so much better for it. And you'll begin to see the difference. And you'll crave it, and you'll know the difference between that and your local grocer. Now, here we are talking about grocery stores and food to fork and all this stuff. And we initially started with the eggplant. But,
this is the wellness warriors, man. And
right.
Again, your vibers too. And again, when you asked in the beginning why, what was the inspiration, because I wanted to be able to belly up and sit alongside and be elbow to elbow with people that were excited to have these kinds of conversations. So yes, thanks for being, I'm a fellow viber and you're a wellness warrior. And the more of us, the more abundant we can be in our birthright to feel well in our body.
Absolutely. And to find out more about the Wellness Warrior Collective and all the wonderful things that Lindsaya is doing, her links are there in the show page. Definitely check her out. Follow her on her media. Join her on Clubhouse because she meets in the morning, early morning for me, like 3 a.m. in the morning or something like that. But maybe not so early for some of you folks on the East Coast. But you can always listen afterwards. I think you do a replay there too. Yep. It's a beautiful room. You can't help but feel better just being in the space. Just like I know you're feeling better now because you're feeling Linsaya's beautiful energy. Lindsaya, thank you so much for joining us on the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. It's been wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And keep shining, Vibers. Keep shining.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you. I know you could be listening to so many podcasts, and I appreciate the time that you spent with us. And please show your appreciation by maybe liking and commenting and sharing this podcast with someone that you love. It's all about spreading the word and trying to find out more ways to be well in your mind, body, and spirit, and more ways to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. More ways to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Lindsaya. You are such a bright light and you're so calm about it. Me, I'm all over the place and you kind of calm me down. So that's a good thing. I loved having you on the podcast. But I wanted to share you with my Patreon members as well. They always get a special bonus. And I have to ask you, how do you vibe? How do you stay more vibrant, more intuitive, more beautiful? Because you really are beautiful on the inside and out, and empowered to live a great midlife.
Yeah, so I vibe because I choose to eat more living food. I put more plants in my body, and I come back to the thing that won't leave me till my last one, and that's my breath. So, I have those moments where I'm pulled out of alignment. I apply my breath and my lighthouse that I choose every morning, and I come back to what is truly the core of me. Like, to give anything else control over me would be the opposite of self-mastery. And I believe that's the greatest lesson in our journey, is that we have the opportunity to meet ourselves and then love ourselves so abundantly that we can choose our peace, choose our joy, and know that all of the other experiences are part of the journey.
Absolutely. And what about your intuition? You had mentioned in the podcast that you kind of already knew when you went to have the implants that this probably wasn't a good thing, but how many of us have known, but we still did it anyway? Moving forward, how have you enhanced your intuition where you not just listen to it, but you act on it?
Yeah, I'm so different than I was 12 and a half years ago, right? So that intuition has been creeping up because I continue to trust myself and to step away from self-abandon. And, again, I give myself grace. Most importantly, I look every single day at what my greatest desires are, and I speak as though they're already happening. So that is the thing I continue to do. Language is everything. Spelling, it has spell in there, not to induce fear for anybody. And it is as important if you want to think of it as casting spells into this universe. And so I am considerate with how I'm speaking.
Yeah, it's very important. Words have power. They have an energetic significance. I talk about that all the time. Anytime I hear one of my kids or my husband cuss, and I said, you know what? To me, people who cuss a lot, all that means is that they're just not using their brain. They're not being creative, because those words bring with it so much negativity only because of the connotation of what people think it's supposed to signify. You may not be thinking that way, but that energy is still there. So why use it? So I understand that piece. What about your beauty? What's some of the beauty tips that you have? Inner beauty, outer beauty.
Oh, castor oil for everything. Okay.
I was just reading something the other day about castor oil for everything. And, I use a lot of olive oil and coconut oil, but castor oil for everything. Okay.
Yeah,
You castor oil syrup, or how do you do it?
No, so castor oil for liver packs, for detoxing, especially for my explantees, but for anybody, it's great to prep us for surgery. It helps to start moving that bile out. You really just wear them right over your liver. Also, if you have any fibroids, endometriosis, ovary, menstruation, you have an upset tummy, it goes in your belly button. Otherwise, you wear it as a pack. I like Queen of Thrones. No, I don't have any code or anything, but I like her because she's got organic castor oil, but she also has the packs. There's thyroid packs for anyone who battles anything with thyroid dysfunction. There's breast packs. So for anyone who's considered about breast health, you want to be, regularly doing castor oil packs for your breast. And you can use it anywhere. Right now it's probably still on my forehead from last evening. So castor oil for everything.
I love that. I had forgotten about the packs and I haven't used them, but I'm going to try them. I am definitely going to try them, and then I'm going to TikTok about it. So Patreon folks, tune into my TikTok in a couple of days. Cross promotion. Okay. And empowerment. How did you get empowered and stay empowered to do the Wellness Warrior Collective and all the different things that you're doing and all the good you're putting into the world?
Yeah, read. Leaders are readers. And so read, because the more that you know, and the more that, between reading and networking, it's between what you come to know that you didn't know before, what's reiterated so that you can wash, rinse, repeat, and also networking so you can meet others that you see it is possible, and those that hopefully support you abundantly. Like, those are really important ways to become empowered. Most important is to know that we write our own story and we are totally worthy. And so any idea that makes us think that we're unworthy is something we have the opportunity to change. So know that we are the author with the pen in hand. Write your own story. You are worthy.
You are worthy. Thank you so much, Lindsaya. That is beautiful. And just thank you so much for being on the bonus interview on Patreon. It's just wonderful to be able to have this time with you. I feel special.
It was so great. Thanks for having me, girlfriend.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Vibe Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.